In this video, I give my opinion on why the data that's already collected in factories, the huge volumes of data that are already collected in factories, hasn't materialized into useful information for these factories to use to improve and optimize their operations. And the challenge is nobody's recording the data in between. And so I call this the warm data. And if you want to prevent you being different conferences, pretty much around the same topic related to practical use cases of AI on shop floors. And one of the key topics that resonated with a lot of people was this idea about contextualized data. I want to share a couple of the slides that I had at those talks with you on this Thursday Thought. So the first slide was, apparently data is the new gold. And I asked the audience, so that were predominantly manufacturers, that collected volumes and volumes and volumes of data, are there actually billionaires? Because if it is the new gold, then they should be billionaires. And obviously, none of them said that they were billionaires because they have lots of data, but the context was, they were not able to get information out of the data. In fact, I asked the question, what percentage of the data do they actually use? And most people came up with 5 to 10% of the data that they actually collect is actually being used, which I thought was pretty interesting. And then I shared this slide, and I tried to propose what I think the problem is. And I think most systems, MES in particular, record the outcome of an event only. So this is a picture of a person about to touch a candle. And the analogy here is every time the person touches the candle, it's a result, and the data gets logged. And the challenge is nobody's recording the data in between. And so I call this the warm data. And if you want to prevent you being burnt or the problem happening, you actually need the warm data to predict that you're going to get burnt, because it's the warm data that you use in your machine learning models to predict that you're going to get burnt. But most systems don't collect the warm data. So that was the first point. The second point was the context in which you collect the data. So it's a scenario around the data that's actually really important that needs to be added to the machine learning models to help us predict when we're going to get burnt. And I think the challenge with most systems is that they only record the result, not the warm data or the preceding data points that led to the result. And my summary slide was this, which I've showed before, is that's exactly why I think the most Industry 4.0 solutions are actually golden roofs on a shack. They're not able to collect the data at the foundational level of the operations, and so they're not able to use things like machine learning and AI to actually predict when things go wrong. So they end up just being these expensive golden roofs on an existing production line. Here's another.